You're live.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 86 of Bank to the Future Live. Today, we're going to be discussing the new unicorns. We've had 9 unicorns at Bank to the Future. For those of you not familiar with the phrase unicorn, it's the phrase used when an early stage company becomes worth $1 billion or more. From my estimation, that's the most amount of unicorns that's ever come from an online investment platform like ours. So we are really, really delighted to see the 9th unicorn from our portfolio companies. I think it's testament to our selectiveness rather than trying to get as many funding rounds listed on the platform as possible. We have been selecting the ones that we think our community of investors will most like. And our community of investors has become really, really savvy over the years. So of the over 100 pitches that we've listed on the platform, 9 of them have become unicorns, which really beats the crap out of most venture capitalist portfolios. So really great to see that a platform like ours is competing with professional venture capitalists in terms of delivering returns to investors. So for episode 86, we wanted to cover our portfolio companies that have become unicorns and make it an educational experience so that maybe some of our new investors can learn some of the different ways that the returns are derived through BnkToTheFuture.com. So as always, we're going to do this in 2 parts. The first part is where I'm going to go through the content part, and I'm going to go through some of the different case studies, some of the different companies, some of the different unicorns, investment opportunities. And in the second half, it's all about me answering your questions. So to get your question answered, we're going to share a screen, which is you need to head over to the webpage, sli.do. It's a software called Slido, sli.do. And you can either scan the QR code that you see in front of us right now if you're on your mobile. Azad is sharing the screen of the Slido questions that we have so far. But you can ask them live while we're on this show. Scan that mobile and the QR code, and it will take you to the Slido board. No account needed, no sign up, and you can just answer your questions. Or if you haven't got any questions, upvote other people's questions, and we'll take the ones with the most upvotes first. If you are not on scanning that QR code, Azad will be sharing the link in the live chat in the description. Alternatively, you can just head over to sli.do and you'll see a box. In that box, do hashtag BF4. You just put in BF4 into the box, and that will take you right over to this board. So get your questions coming in because the second half is all about answering as many questions as we can take in the second half of the show. Right, so just before we go through the Slido board, let's jump in. Before we go through the unicorns, I wanted to give a quick navigation of the BnkToTheFuture.com website in case some of you are unfamiliar of where to look things, or maybe some of you are familiar but you haven't noticed some things. So the first thing is Azad's going to pull up the portfolio companies page. So this page is accessible just by going to the About Us drop down, and one of them is portfolio companies. And here you can see a list of every single company that we've been raising finance for that exist in the Bank to the Future portfolio. Whether that be companies that haven't succeeded or have succeeded, you can see the list of them there and the different types there. The other place to look is if you head over to the Start Investing tab, you can see a list of all the previous funding rounds. So on there, you can see a list of each and every funding round that we've done in the past. We tend to have approximately one every couple of months. And at the moment, it's been very, very challenging getting them on there because the second that we mail them out to our priority access members, they sell out and they're not even making it to the listing page. So the importance of being a premium member at Bank to the Future is becoming ever more important, especially as we have more premium members than ever. And we're seeing a lot of demand for the Bank to the Future token. If you're not familiar with how to do that, then you need to head over to the funds section of your account. And there you will see your different wallets. You've got a USD wallet, a Bitcoin wallet, an Ethereum wallet, and a Bank to the Future token wallet. Hit manage on that. And you're able to purchase some Bank to the Future tokens up to 100,000, 10,000 to become a premium member, 100,000 to become a premium plus member. Leave them on your account, or if you acquire them on an exchange, you can deposit them to your account. And then you will have the relevant membership. When you hold 10,000 Bank to the Future tokens, or you hold 100,000 Bank to the Future tokens as a Premium Plus member, you get 48 hours priority access to deals. You can also get 50% discount on your trading fees when you pay for them with Bank to the Future tokens. But remember, if you pay for your trading fees and you go under 10,000, you've got to deposit some more, purchase them from an exchange. You can't purchase more than 100,000 Bank to the Future tokens on the platform at the moment. If you want to go above that, you need to head over to an exchange to do that. The other page worth looking at is the secondary market page. So again, if you head over to the secondary market page, you can see all the companies that are open 24/7. So we have two different types of markets. We have a primary market, which was the new deals where companies are selling shares in their companies, and the secondary market, which is where existing investors can sell some of their shares. Perhaps they need liquidity, and that is currently open 24/7 unless a market is suspended. We only ever have to suspend a market when they're going through some kind of funding round or corporate action, like some of the companies that we'll be discussing today. So now you got that, we're going to jump straight into going through some of the unicorns. So for those of you that missed the beginning, a unicorn is a company that becomes worth over $1 billion or more. And we have 9 of them from our Bank to the Future portfolio companies, which is an absolutely tremendous record relative to the venture capital market and relative to any type of funding platform. This is not including things like, in the early days, we had something like a Bitcoin bond that paid out, the crypto bond that paid out thousands of Bitcoin to all of our investors. Some of them, those investors are logging in now and seeing that they've got hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of Bitcoin from a very small investment that they made. Also, the Ether mining backed security that we launched when Ethereum was under $1. And we were paying out thousands and thousands of Ether to all of our investors as dividends. In the very early days when very few people were looking at Bitcoin and Ethereum as well. So this doesn't include any of those pitches where the dividends that were paid out are now worth, unicorn status. It's certainly just from smaller investments. We're just focusing on the companies that are now worth over $1 billion. So what can we learn from them and make it an educational experience as well? So the first one we're going to cover is Bitfinex. Bitfinex is currently available on our secondary market. We can't give financial advice and we don't give valuation advices as well. But if you can see next to the company name, there's a little tab that says more details. Under those more details, you can see some of the information that we have about the company. That's where you can list, there's a drop down and it shows certain information about the last time. Now, the reason that we can't rely on this information 100% is we can't guarantee that it's the most up-to-date information. But you can see based upon the last funding round and the last data and the last documents, how many shares were issued there, what the price was, and a bit on the history. So with Bitfinex, this was launched during and after the Bitfinex hack. So Bitfinex experienced a hack back in 2016 when 120,000 Bitcoins were stolen from the exchange. And Bitfinex were faced with a scenario where it had to haircut some of its deposits from investors. And it had to create a scenario whereby it could try and recover the company, and it recovered big time, thanks to its community of investors. So what it did is it haircutted some of the balances that were held on Bitfinex and replaced it with a digital token. This digital token was it was actually a Bitcoin-based token built on Omni at the time, before Ethereum was very popular for tokens. The token was represented $1. So it was a promise to repay $1 by Bitfinex to repay it in the future. Now, if you didn't believe in the future of Bitfinex, then you could sell it on the secondary market, and the token was tradable on the market. And some people sold it and dumped it straight away. Others accumulated them and ended up getting exposure to one of the most valuable companies in Bitcoin, because the token was worth $1. It was trading at about 20 cents at one stage, and people were accumulating them because those tokens were not only a promise to repay $1 if Bitfinex recovered, but also convert it to shares in Bitfinex at the fixed price of $1. So people were able to buy tokens at 20 cents and convert them for equity in Bitfinex at $1 in the primary offering on BnkToTheFuture. Many people took advantage of that, and they ended up with essentially a huge discount on a company that was valued at the time at $200 million. That company that was valued at $200 million was assuming that you had one of those tokens just at $1. If you bought it at 20 cents, you got an 80% discount on that $200 million. Now, later, Bitfinex started paying out all of its returns, all of its profit, as it were, to shareholders during the last 2017-2018 bull market, and paid out many times more than the value of the original investment just in dividends. Now, as Bitfinex is also the company that is behind Tether, the sister company, and they had challenges along the way with their banking, and everyone knows the stories, covered it in previous episodes. They stopped paying out dividends and focused on growth and having a war chest. But today they are still one of the highest volume Bitcoin and crypto exchanges in the world. The price went from $1 on our secondary market. If you look at the last price on there, I think it's trading maybe about $14. So a 14x return if you purchased at $1. If you got an 80% discount, then much higher returns, plus all the dividends. And still to this day, Bitfinex, for all intents and purposes, is significantly undervalued relative to the comparables of other companies that operate, that have trading volume and have similar brands and reputations and important to the ecosystem. Obviously a controversial company, been through its challenges, but seems like every single challenge it experienced, it recovers. But the Bitfinex, the shares are in the SPV, and they are tradable from people that want to sell them to people that want to buy them. Those are on the secondary market, and that prices it at unicorn status, but significantly undervalued relative to other companies in the industry. Moving on to the second unicorn, and this is a new unicorn. Became announced due to a recent funding round. And so this brings up the question of how do we price companies at BnkToTheFuture? Well, on the primary markets, whenever a company lists and raises funding on our platform, one of our normal requirements is that they have already secured funding from a professional investor or a venture capitalist that has been through the due diligence process and set a price for that company. And the way prices are set are based upon comparables to other companies, multiples on top of revenues or profits, or just really a feel for the progress of the company. But professional investors place a price on it. And then when we do a primary offering, we allow people to co-invest at the same price. Because we pool all these investors together, it's very easy for these companies because they only get one investor on their cap table, but you become a shareholder in our special company that we set up that makes an investment in that company. So with Bitso, the price is on the primary market. We were early investors at Bank to the Future, our community of investors invested in a couple of funding rounds. They were round about $1 million or a few million in the early funding rounds. But now on the secondary market, it has now been priced at $2.2 billion as per the last announcement. We've suspended it on our secondary market for now. So when you look at the company page, you can head over to the portfolio, the company page, pick out a company, you can search it. You can see Bitso there. The first tab you see is the information on the company that we have. It also links to any previous primary market rounds that we may have done, so you can check those out. It has a discussion page where any logged in user can discuss the company. And then there's an investor zone, and that's just for shareholders to have a discussion. And then when it's listed on our secondary market, there'll also be a markets page, and you can easily get there. Now, Bitso is currently suspended. The reason for that is because it went through a stock split, which means that the existing investors receive more shares, but at a lower price. And so we are working through that corporate action. So if you are a Bitso investor, then at some stage you will receive in the coming weeks a settlement letter from our legal team. Once that's all resolved, we can then make sure that you get the right number of shares because of the split. A split is simply a way of issuing more shares but lowering the price. So the net effect is the same. Happens very frequently in the stock market, because when companies become really, really high priced in the stock market, you can't buy fractional shares. So they also do it in it. Now on Bank to the Future, you can buy fractional shares because of our special structure and the beauty of Cayman laws. But Bitso just announced the funding round, and that valued them at $2.2 billion. So that makes our second unicorn. And those investors that choose to, when the secondary market comes back, those that miss the funding round can purchase those, and those that want to sell can sell subject to liquidity on our secondary market. So that's our second one, which is Bitso. The third one is a company that only just raised finance last year at a $120 million valuation. They are getting ready for their second round. They have announced it publicly, but we do not have a go live date. But shortly they will be announcing their lead investor, and that is Celsius Network. So Celsius Network raised at approximately $120 million. And they have gone through hockey stick growth since then. We haven't got the exact figures right now, but the estimates is that they're far north of $1 billion, probably north of the $2 billion, based upon the new funding round that will be coming in. And investors get to co-invest and reinvest on the same terms as well. So we'll be opening up the Celsius Network pitch as soon as we have all the documentation. We're just waiting for all the due diligence documents from them. As soon as we have that, we can give an estimate on when that will go funding. But Celsius is experiencing such rapid growth at the moment. They are finding it hard to fit in all the amazing things that are happening at their company. Going to take a quick water break, but you can see the Celsius funding round there. So excited, spill on the Bank to the Future established 2010 t-shirt. So that does not have a secondary market listing, but when we get the second funding round come in and the official price is confirmed, we can update the price of the company for all previous shareholders, and then they have a paper profit there. They would have to wait for an acquisition. Now remember, this is still long-term, high-risk, high-return investing. I gave a video recently about the whole psychology and strategy of how to survive bear markets. And one of the important pieces that I've used is owning equity in crypto exchanges and owning private equity, because you can't very easily sell those. And so you're forced to be a long-term hodler. And that's where these ginormous returns have been made for many of our investors. So the third unicorn that's soon to enter at the next pricing event is Celsius. The fourth unicorn is Robinhood. So Robinhood is a highly established company. We did a secondary trade on Bank to the Future, and they have recently announced that there is an impending initial public offering where they are planning to go public. The initial announcements have been made at $20 billion. So this is our 20x unicorn, as it were, Robinhood. And we look forward to getting further details on when the initial public offering will go live. And this is when larger returns are made. So if you invest in a company on Bank to the Future and years later, the company goes public where they list on an exchange like NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange, London Stock Exchange, Shanghai Stock Exchange, Hong Kong Stock Exchange, wherever it may be, then we convert your private shares for public shares. The private shares that you owned, and this is what the large venture capitalists and professional investors do. They buy shares when they're public, and then they they buy shares when they're private, and then when they go on to become public, they add liquidity onto the public markets, and Robinhood, and this is executed through an initial public offering. So the fourth unicorn in the portfolio is Robinhood. Unicorn number 5, Blockchain.com. So Blockchain.com used to be known as Blockchain.info back in the day. Got one of the most important domains in our industry and one of the real early adopters. Everyone had a Blockchain.com wallet in the early days. One of the first self-custodial wallets to get major traction. Everybody uses their blockchain explorer. And they have also launched their peer-to-peer exchange and other products in the ecosystem. But Blockchain.com closed a funding round recently, and that valued them at approximately $5 billion. They are now on our secondary market for those that want to invest in the next phase of their growth. But that is the 5th unicorn at an approximate valuation of $5 billion based upon their last funding round. So now moving on to unicorn number 6. Unicorn number 6 is Coinbase. Now Coinbase is one of the very first companies to go public in our industry. They recently did an initial public offering. Prior to that, they were a private company. We did a round on BnkToTheFuture.com, and through a secondary trade, people and our investors were able to get exposure to Coinbase. When they started going pre-IPO, they were secondary trades were happening on the NASDAQ private markets at approximately $100 billion pre-IPO. Now, the IPO has corrected a certain degree, and you would expect that with the recent Bitcoin market correction. But Coinbase is now a public company, publicly tradable on NASDAQ, and we are going through the process as we speak of converting those private shares to public shares, thanks to our partnership with one of our other portfolio companies, First Digital Trust, who is acting as custodian. And this will be the process that we'll be going through for all future companies when private shares are swapped up for public shares, as we get more and more exits, as more and more companies have been announcing these announcements. Now, the 7th unicorn is Ripple Labs. Ripple Labs is the largest holder. I'm not sure of the exact stats right now, but they owned approximately 60% of the token supply of XRP, and they have all the technology of trying to compete with Swift and create a network for banks to communicate, messaging networks, and they own approximately 60% of, well, they did, they sold some of those down, of the XRP cryptocurrency. The really interesting thing about the Ripple Labs stock is that they have announced that once they're done with their SEC case, where the SEC and Ripple Labs are in a court case, which had some positive announcements recently, you can check those out with regards to the case and the next steps. But the SEC is claiming that XRP is a security, and Ripple Labs are contending that. And once they are through with the court battle with the SEC, their intention is to pick up where they left off in order to do an IPO. Now, what's really interesting about the private stock with Ripple Labs is that the stock actually trades at a discount on our secondary market to the value of just the XRP that they currently hold on their balance sheet based upon the public figures and estimations. So because this is long-term and less liquid, there is a significant discount in owning the equity relative to some of the value of the assets that they own just by holding a top 10, just because they hold a large position in one of the top 10 cryptocurrencies out there. This doesn't even include the value of their technology, and the last funding round that they completed outside of BnkToTheFuture valued the company, when many banks invested, at approximately $10 billion. So the investors on BnkToTheFuture get significant discounts to what the banks and the professional investors were paying, but now it's at the price floor of that last funding round at $10 billion. So that is Ripple Labs, and that is our 7th unicorn on BnkToTheFuture. The 8th unicorn came from an announcement that came out last week or this week, where Circle, the company behind the second largest stablecoin, USDC, that has been announced to be integrated with Visa, MasterCard. They're doing a partnership with Visa, and it now has the USDC stablecoin has a market cap of $22 billion as the stablecoin use case gets more and more traction. Of course, behind the most popular USDT Tether, which is part of one of our other portfolio companies, a sister company, Tether, to the Bitfinex company, the exchange, which we covered as our number 1 unicorn. So number 8 is Circle. They recently announced that they closed the largest funding round in crypto. We have not been given details of that valuation yet. Once we get those details, then there will be a new price floor on the BnkToTheFuture secondary market. For now, our investors are able to purchase those shares based upon the information that we have, but we do not know that. But we do know that the previous funding round several years back was done at a $3 billion valuation. So we expect a $440 million valuation would be many times north of that, but we don't have the information because we don't have information right on these shares yet, as is the risk when investing in companies on the secondary market, as all the other risk disclosures about dilution, illiquidity, lack of dividends, various other things. So we try to disclose all those risk warnings before that. But based upon the last funding round, we expect it to be significantly higher than that $3 billion valuation, but we don't have those details yet. But as we said, congratulations to Circle, who has a $22 billion market cap stablecoin now, and the second largest in the industry, and all sorts of exciting things happening with the USDC stablecoin, all built on top of the Ethereum blockchain, of course. And that moves us over to number 9, which is the second most popular company on our secondary market behind Bitfinex, which is Kraken. Kraken have announced they did a couple of funding rounds with BnkToTheFuture on the primary market. The very first one was at a $20 million valuation. The second one was at a $4 billion valuation. And Kraken is obviously a unicorn based upon the price of the last funding round. And they recently announced that a new investment has occurred at the $20 billion valuation. So that will set the new price floor that we will be setting based once we have that information and confirmation that that pricing event has occurred. So they also have announced that they are looking to complete an initial public offering, and they have also just secured their bank charter registration for their Kraken Bank in Wyoming. So Kraken is an incredible company, and they believe that they have a lot more growth to follow, and that completes the 9 different unicorns that are part of the Bank to the Future portfolio companies. And we are really, really over the moon to see this, and we can't wait to see which company is going to become the 10th unicorn. In the meantime, we are working with earlier stage companies on the primary market. Remember, all of these unicorns were early stage companies that some people saw the value, others just simply didn't see it, but the long-term holders obviously saw that. So those are the 9 unicorns, and we can't wait to see which one is going to be the 10th unicorn. So what I'm going to do right now that we reached the halfway mark, is we're going to head over to the Slido board, and Azad is going to be taking those questions. And if we have any time left over, I'll do some content on the whole psychology and strategy. But you may have been seeing it on my Twitter profile. I am on day 83 of my public commitment to health, my Twitter at Simon Dixon Twit, where I've been giving a message each and every day. The last one had approximately, well, I gave one today, but the one before that had 20,000 views on Twitter on the psychology and strategy of how to weather out a Bitcoin bear market and exactly what I do. So make sure that you watch that video if we don't have time to cover it. If we don't have enough questions, then I'll try and cover that as well. But we'll make sure that you get the link. I think it was day 81 or day 82, the video where we covered the Bitcoin bear market. Also remember, refresher, if you head over to retirementplanb.com, you can still get the 4-part free video series, if you haven't watched that yet, of exactly how I'm investing in what I call the Great Depression of the 2020s. That is still available for you. Also, we're giving away a free digital copy of the world's first book to ever include Bitcoin, which is Bank to the Future, Protect Your Future Before Governments Go Bust. A book that I wrote that forecasted central bank digital currencies way back in 2011. Started writing in 2010, just after Bitcoin launched. Forecasted modern monetary theory, and videos that we published in that book talked about the Great Depression of the 2020s as well. So you can also get a free digital copy of that when you review that free 4-part video series, and you can check that out. The advice is still as relevant today as it was back then. A few things that have changed, and I cover that in the video series as well. So remember that. If you've enjoyed this, we're going to start moving into your questions now. Please do give us a like and a share. That really, really helps us get more viewers that want to build and protect their wealth by building a portfolio in the future of finance. And now I'm going to take a quick water break and hand over to Azad as he reads out the first questions from the Slido board.
Is BF Global a shareholder in the companies it raises money for? What is the approximate valuation for BF Global?
So BF Global completed its last pricing event at $250 million. And BF Global sometimes purchases shares in companies, but that's not our normal model. Our normal model is that whenever investors invest through our platform, we don't charge investors to invest, but if the companies end up going public, or they end up distributing tokens, or they end up exiting or get acquired, or they end up paying dividends, then we get a 5% distribution fee. So this means that our interests are aligned. The more companies succeed, the more exits happen, the more dividends happen, the more distributions happen, then Bank to the Future gets revenue as a result of that. And so it has a beneficial interest and exposure to all of the companies that raise funding through our platform. We are currently going through our annual audit at the moment. And so we will be placing an estimation. If you are a BF Global shareholder, then that information will be made available as soon as we have it in the investor zone for our shareholders of BF Global. For those of you that don't know, BF Global is the parent company that owns Bank to the Future, which is the subsidiary, which is our securities business that owns and operates the BnkToTheFuture.com online investment platform. Thank you for the question.
Alan asks, without giving too much, does Bank to the Future plan to offer some sort of product, perhaps under the Plan B umbrella, that would allow people to present their equity crypto assets offshore? Or is this impossible due to different jurisdictions?
So we are currently in closed beta with our Retirement Plan B online coaching program customers. So for those of you who are not familiar, we have a free 4-part video series that releases how I'm investing at the moment. And we have an online coaching program with many of the most high profile figures in Bitcoin, whether it be myself that teaches much of the investing approaches that is used for you to build a retirement plan and how to you to build it. But also people like Andreas Antonopoulos, who did the security module, Saifedean Ammous, the author of the Bitcoin Standard, who did the pricing module, Pamela Morgan, who did the inheritance module, Adam Vaziri, the first crypto lawyer that specialized in this space, did the structuring. And part of that, we are sharing exactly how to do it, we've got our tax advisors and everything that come along. We are currently, we took on 500 customers and closed the cart. But we've got approximately 5,000 people that have registered to be one of the next 500 clients. If you would like to explore being one of the next 500 clients, we'll be releasing a second round of customers later in the second half of this year, almost there. But you need to actually register on this page, which is retirementplanb.com/sign-up. Now, of the 500 customers that did the online coaching program, we are in a closed beta launching in the next 2 weeks with our customers to give them the complete solution for our portfolio builder service. So our portfolio builder service is where our investors can have their very own offshore structure, their very own custodial account that comes with that structure, and all funds that they send will automatically build a portfolio in line with their strategy. It can purchase Bitcoin, Ether, it can borrow, it can lend and receive income and a compounding effect. It can build a portfolio of equity in private companies. So at the moment, it is impossible to achieve unless you invest hundreds of thousands into your own structures and have access to all of the different markets. But we are bringing that to our Retirement Plan B online coaching program customers. And once we've moved out a beta with our first 100 customers, we will be making that available to everybody. We are really excited about bringing this game-changing approach to building a retirement plan to market, so that everybody can benefit from exactly the same approaches, companies and everything and structures that we use. We've been working on this for over a year now. Got KPMG to sign off on doing an appraisal from the perspective of tax opinions and various other things. And so we'll be looking forward to releasing that to everybody. But at the moment, it's exclusive just to those on the Retirement Plan B online coaching program. Next question.
Malik asks, greetings. Are these investment opportunities available to non-accredited investors in New York?
So you have to be an accredited investor if you are based in the US. Our US broker dealer is able to onboard US investors from New York. That's not a problem. But you cannot be a non-accredited investor. What can you do on Bank to the Future? Well, in the future, you will be able to sign up for a Retirement Plan B. We have built that for investors, but again, that has to be accredited if you are in the US. We do, for non-US investors, allow people to purchase Bitcoin, Ethereum, and onboard into stable coins through the Bank to the Future platform. But if you want to build equity, then securities laws make that only accessible to accredited investors at this stage.
How and where can I buy Bank to the Future token?
If you want to buy Bank to the Future tokens, the cheapest and best place to acquire them, but we can't give advice, obviously, is purchasing on an exchange. If you're not familiar with how to purchase on an exchange and how to find what exchanges support a token, head over to two websites. You can either do coinmarketcap.com or coingecko.com. Or is it .com? I'm not sure, maybe .io, but just Google CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap. When you head over there, type in BFT or the Bank to the Future token. The ticker symbol is BFT, and click on the Markets tab. On the Markets tab, it will list all the exchanges that allow you to purchase Bank to the Future tokens. If you are also have an account on BnkToTheFuture.com, then non-US investors are able to purchase them directly in the platform. Now, it's a very convenient way of doing it, but it's an expensive way of doing it. The reason for that is because if you want to get them cheaper, purchase them on an exchange. We have to factor in the fact that we allow you to buy up to 100,000 tokens. It's not an order book, so you can have to pay a premium there when you purchase them on the Bank to the Future platform. We do that because we want people to be able to purchase them on crypto exchanges, should they choose, in order to get a better rate. But those are the different ways of doing it. If you're from the US, you can't purchase Bank to the Future tokens on the platform for regulatory reasons. And so you would have to look at an exchange that can support that, or you can look at decentralized exchanges like Uniswap, which has a market for the Bank to the Future token as well. In terms of why you would buy them, if you hold 10,000 Bank to the Future tokens on your BnkToTheFuture.com account, you get 48 hours priority access, and that is being almost required now to get access to primary offerings because they're selling out to the priority access members in general. If you hold 100,000 Bank to the Future tokens on your account, every time you invest in a primary offering, as long as you don't pay by card, you get a 1% kickback for that investment as well. And that's paid in Bank to the Future tokens based upon the exchange rate between US dollars and Bank to the Future tokens when all the legal work is complete and the pitch is closed. Also, anyone that holds Bank to the Future tokens, premium members, you get a 50% discount when purchasing, on the fees on our secondary market when you pay for them with Bank to the Future tokens, as almost all of our traders on the secondary market do. Next question.
How do you think Bitcoin would react if central banks or governments rolled out gold, silver-backed, or limited supply digital currencies?
Doesn't really matter. We've seen lots of attempts at rolling out gold-backed digital currencies. If a central bank issues a gold-backed digital currency, then it will still be, from my perspective, a central bank digital currency based upon a store of value. And a store of value is designed to preserve your wealth, not increase your wealth. Bitcoin is what I call a speculative store of value. And that means that you're speculating on whether it will become a store of value one day, which is why there's a huge increase in value to be made if it becomes it. And that's what creates the speculative value, because a store of value preserves your wealth, not increase your wealth. In the 12 years that Bitcoin has been around, and in the over decade that I've been involved in Bitcoin, it's been in a 12-year bull market with corrections in between, and has increased people's wealth significantly for 10 of the last 12 years. And anyone that's held it for more than 1 year, then it has had a positive effect on increasing their wealth. The past does not equal the future. Can't give financial advice. But that's why I still accumulate Bitcoin today, and it's an integral part of my investment approach in preparing for the Great Depression of the 2020s, as I call it. So the impact is that I think it doesn't really have much impact. It still drives people. Remember, gold is not as scarce as Bitcoin. Bitcoin is more scarce, and Bitcoin is more divisible, easier. And having a blockchain that represents a physical asset has always been very problematic in our industry. And we've had many gold-backed stable coins, and it still hasn't had an impact on that. If a central bank does it, I think it will be the same impact, competing, fulfilling different use cases, and the demand to own your own money, spend your own money, and have a fixed money supply that is truly scarce, digital and global, as our world's best shot at ever achieving hard sound money, still has a use case, which is why I still continue to build my portfolio in the industry, even today, whatever, at these prices.
When will we have more projects raising funds as well as expansion of the secondary trading market, sorry?
Yeah, we're currently working with 6 deals on the primary market. Every time we release one, it sells out into priority access deal members, so it doesn't make it to the listing. So the other 5, they're going through due diligence right now. If all their due diligence checks out, we anticipate 2 pitches are going to be ready to launch within the next 3 weeks. And so make sure you made yourself a premium member if you want to get access to those before everybody else. We anticipate 2 are going to be ready to go live in the next 3 weeks, but we never announce dates because we are dependent upon third parties producing all the documents, and sometimes the due diligence process is challenging for the companies to get through. And if we find something, then we can't promise that will get through the due diligence process. But we have 2 that we think are prepared and ready to go live in the next 3 weeks. We never announce them in advance. In terms of secondary market, I think we just got sign off for a new secondary market. So we anticipate launching a new secondary market in the next couple of weeks as well. But we've had so many corporate actions and so many returns being delivered that our legal team and our corporate actions team have been completely slammed at making sure everyone's getting all their returns, Bitcoin payouts that have been happening for companies like Exodus, public shares through companies like Coinbase, split shares through companies like Bitso, Series B shares through companies like Securitize, and all sorts of things that have been happening recently, tokens through companies like Storage who bought out the investors, and all sorts of things that have been happening and seem to come together all at one go.
When a company goes public, how does the conversion go between partial shares and full shares? Example, say I own 1.6 shares in the S&P. How would I get this represented in real shares?
So when it comes to the actual public shares, then we're only able to transfer whole numbers. But because we're pooling it all together, there's usually just a bit of dust left over. And so in our terms and conditions, if you head over to the section where we discuss how we treat partial shares, then we normally execute a sell order, and then we will deposit those funds to your BnkToTheFuture.com account, where you can either convert them to Bitcoin or Ether, you can withdraw them as a bank wire, or you can withdraw them as a stable coin, or you can save them for investing in a new deal on the secondary market, or using them as partial payment towards a new deal on the primary market. So that's how we deal with the partial shares. And we've been dealing with that through the process with the Coinbase deal at the moment.
Is there a minimum size for a company to go public as Coinbase did? Would Bank to the Future be eligible to do this? What are the advantages and disadvantages?
So there isn't really an official minimum amount for a company to go public. However, the cost of going public is significant. So I used to work in investment banking, and my job was to work with venture capital companies when I worked in corporate finance. And of their portfolio companies, find which ones are ready to go public. And we used to list them on the London Stock Exchange alternative investment market. The cost is in the millions to actually go public. So you have to have that kind of reserves and cash. And so it is a significant process. And that's why private markets exist. That's why the high risk, high returns in private markets are so much greater, because you're taking the highest level of risk and therefore you get the highest level of returns when those companies succeed. You have to diversify because most of them won't succeed, and most companies do fail in the private market. But the one that does go public ends up paying, and hopefully you get some other returns along the way if you're diversifying well. In terms of the advantages of going public, I do think we're going to see disruption in the public markets through security tokens at some stage. It's very early in that cycle, but I do think a lot of companies are going to be choosing security tokens, which are going to be interoperable between different exchanges. And I think stock markets are going to start adopting, and they already have started adopting. So that's a longer term trend. I anticipate several years for that to play out. But still, many companies are choosing to go public. In terms of BF Global, if you are a shareholder in BF Global, we probably wouldn't be looking to do a IPO personally as our strategy. We wanted to go live on our secondary market, but there are restrictions from our regulators that need to be overcome in order to do that. Otherwise, if it were up to us, we would do that. But if we were to go public, it would probably be something along the lines of a strategic roll-up of different synergetic companies into a public company would be some kind of strategy that we'd look to follow, or a private sale as well into a company that is looking to go public. That's just our personal preference, but we'd rather ride out the innovation, see how it's all going in the security token market, and do what we've always done best, which is be on the right side of compliance and getting the right blend between compliance and innovation. So we look forward to seeing how that area grows. But if you are a BF Global shareholder, we're looking at being able to give an update on that within the next couple of years, certainly.
Do you think that Kraken will want to go public sooner than expected due to this new valuation?
Don't know, don't have any inside information on that. I don't know why they'd want to go public sooner just because of that valuation. My estimate is that Kraken will do what it continues to do best, which is figure out how to add significant value to their bottom line so that they can add more billions to their valuations. And they are very strategic in their mergers, acquisitions, and strategies. So we'll leave them to be experts in what they have done an incredible job with, producing incredible returns for our investors so far.
Are there any companies you're particularly excited about that you've got lined up to carry out equity raises for in the near future?
Yes, certainly. So I tend to invest in most deals Bank to the Future. The original foundations of Bank to the Future was I wanted a way. I believe that the future of finance is going to be very different from the past. I wrote that book, Bank to the Future, Protect Your Future Before Governments Go Bust, talked about the 7 hugely disruptive technologies that would facilitate us moving from a world of central bank digital currencies, the equivalent at that time. So we created BnkToTheFuture.com. We co-founded it with Bliss Dixon in order to allow people to diversify widely. And I regularly invest through Bank to the Future. But what we don't do is we don't announce deals before they go live, because we don't like to do that until we know 100% they are ready, just in case something doesn't make it and we don't want to disappoint there. So plenty of deals I'm very excited about. I invest in many deals on Bank to the Future, but we don't announce them until they're ready.
Marlene Martinez asks, would it be possible to buy some shares and not whole order in secondary market, as some shareholders are selling huge amounts and would be useful for me to purchase a bite?
Not sure I fully understand the question, but yeah, the secondary market is just a place for those that are impatient and want to sell earlier out the full way. So there's different stages of wealth. The first stage of wealth is where you just don't have enough fiat. And you're trying to figure out a way to accumulate as much fiat as possible. So you start investing and you're fiat thinking. The other problem that comes as you generate wealth is you have too much fiat, and that's a bigger problem. So many people that are on the early stage of their wealth cycle, they're thinking about investing in order to generate more fiat. People that are on the later stage of their wealth cycle, they are trying to get rid of fiat as much as possible and hold it in assets. So the people in the earlier stage of their wealth cycle sometimes have liquidity needs. They need to sell earlier and they can't ride out the full cycle of, the 5 to 10 years it might take for a company to mature to its fullest potential. And so they sell to those that have too much fiat and are looking to hold it in assets. And we got 150,000 investors at Bank to the Future, and a range of people that may have a liquidity need because they don't have enough fiat to sell to somebody that's got too much fiat and they're looking to hold assets. So the secondary market wasn't designed as a way of you pumping and dumping and quickly turning around. It was really just a way of those that absolutely cannot wait being able to access some liquidity, going future returns, because they don't have or are not in a position, or their position changes, to ride it out. So yes, you can accumulate, and the secondary market, the rules are that we do not allow people to sell below the price of the last funding round. So there's always a price floor, but you can purchase at the price of the last funding round or lower, and you can use that to accumulate significantly discounted from those that are not able to ride out the full length of these companies, or hold different beliefs, or want to allocate their capital in different ways.
I saw Samson Mao invite you to chat on Twitter the other day in regards to fundraising for Blockstream. Did this ever come to anything?
We would only ever tell you if it was actually announced, and we won't tell you beforehand. But we've done deals with Samson, and we've worked with the Blockstream team on different projects. So if that ever were to come through, we wouldn't pre-tell you. It would just be listed, and the first people to find out about it would be our premium members that hold a minimum of 10,000 Bank to the Future tokens on the platform.
I don't have cash at hand, but I think my shares would represent enough value to pay for the Plan B retirement program. Is there any way to use this equity and gain a place in the next Plan B offering?
We don't accept payment in equity, but that's an incredibly interesting proposition that we've never actually thought about. So thank you for that suggestion. We can put that on the roadmap of figuring out things, whether we want to accept equity at payment, but at the moment, it's a cash payments for retirement Plan B. You can pay in Bitcoin, you can pay in Ether, you can pay in stable coins, or you can pay in card payment in your fiat currency. Last time we did this.
Okay, the final question. What is the perspective of BFT for 2022?
For 2022, we want to, so our goal in 2021 was to apply for additional licenses. We have 2 pending applications, which opens up the amount of investors and the ability for us to take on investors at Bank to the Future. We also wanted to expand the number of services that we could offer. So those registrations are complete, or in progress rather. One of them is not complete. Then we wanted to roll out 2 sets of retirement Plan B online coaching program members and 2 sets of RPB portfolio builders. And once we've done that, we would then like to integrate into the model the Bank to the Future token into our mass appeal product, which is not just for the sophisticated investors, and also integrate into part of the rewards and ecosystem as retirement Plan B becomes part of the Bank to the Future ecosystem and deeply integrated into the platform. So 2022 will be about expanding the existing utility. The utility that we already have is being used, but expanding the number of people that can actually use it. And so the more people that can use it, the more people that need to purchase it to access services, and it grows a network effect, and everyone and our Bank to the Future token holders benefit from the growth of our ecosystem. So it's a bit of a feedback loop and mechanism, but the goal in 2021 was to roll out those mass appeal products And I think in 2022, you can start to see the fruits of being able to integrate that into our already existing Bank to the Future token ecosystem, which provides tremendous utility for our investors looking to build their portfolio and build a portfolio in the future of finance. So that brings us to the hour, on the hour. As I said, we'll be live now. If there is a new deal live on Bank to the Future, we might be just doing interviews with companies listing on the platform in the future upcoming episodes, or we'll be covering another topic next week on Bank to the Future Live. I am almost complete with my 90-day public commitment to health. Thank you to everybody that's been giving me those messages around the body transformation that I've been going through, losing weight, getting more healthy. I'll be giving those updates in the final 7 days on Twitter. So make sure you follow her on Twitter. If you want to get notifications of our future videos, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Make sure you've hit that bell symbol and hit all. And if you've enjoyed this video and you like the questions, then please do us a favor, hit that like on this video. We're trying to build the number of people that get to see these videos, and YouTube favors us when we have more likes. So if you enjoyed this, do us that favor. It really, really helps the algos, and we really appreciate that. And so as always, we will see you this time next week on episode, we just did episode 86 of Bank to the Future Live, and we'll see you next week for episode 87. Thanks for moderations. Thanks to the Bank to the Future team, and we will see you, all of our investors, next time. Peace.